Hey, everybody. It's Mother Theresa here, grandstanding on a Tuesday night. Hope everybody is ready to grandstand. Hey, everybody. It's Mother Theresa. Hey, everybody. It's Mother Theresa here. It is time to grandstand. Listen, everybody, I missed you all on last week. I really did. And I contemplating trying to come on. But guess what? When you're just tired and you need to take a nap, sometimes that just takes precedence over everything. And that's exactly what happened on last week. I was tired. And I actually waited so late to put up the I'm going to be out that I was canceling that not for last Tuesday, because I was like, I can do it. Because I miss you all when I don't come on and grandstand with you all. But the sleep just took over and I just had to just let it go. How many of you all have had great intentions of doing something and then it's just like, okay, it just all goes out the window? I'm quite sure that I am not the only one that has had great intentions and then something else just takes over. Well, listen, on tonight, we are going to talk about, oh, hey, Miracle, I need you to explain to me what the little things that you're making, actually, what do they do? And I don't know if it has something to do with this new law about the cell phones, not being allowed in school. Is that some type of device that parents can still keep up with their children? I don't know, but whatever you're selling, whatever you're making, send me a little bit more information about it so I can help you to advertise it. All right. So listen, everybody, one of the things, I see somebody put something in here about self-care. Let me get over to this other device and let me see what you all are saying so I can stay on top of the messages. All right, give me just a minute. You all know how all of this technology stuff, and of course, I'm trying to learn it. So bear with me. Sometimes it's like I can't find the stuff that I need, and but that's okay. Guess what? We make it work. And so on tonight, I just wanted to talk to you all a little bit about, as we are going back to school, and I had said that I wanted to talk to you all, to the parents, about some of the concerns that you have for this school year. Every school year, there are typically some new rules, some new laws that have been put into play. However, one of the things I will tell you all is that we don't necessarily always agree with the things that's happening and the laws that are coming out, for our children. But being on the inside, I can tell you that most of them is because we're trying to keep your children safe, okay? We're trying to keep your children safe. And not only are we trying to keep your children safe, but we're trying to keep everybody safe. And so sometimes the laws that come out as a parent, it may not necessarily be something that we are excited or even thrilled about. But when we think about the totality of the safety for everybody, every single student that's in that school, every single adult, just everybody, period, there has to be some things universal that will make sure that our children are safe. And, and one of the things that, like I said, working on the inside, I can see both sides of it. And also, being on the campus, I know that sometimes the cell phones, they can be a hindrance to children and adults. However, if we teach our children to use them correctly, they will not be. Because most children will actually put their cell phones away during instruction time and they will use it during the changing of the periods, or the in cafeteria, or whenever they have that time where it's not instructional time. And if you really take a look at it, the instructional time is where they are really wanting to ensure that the kids are not being disrupted. And of course, I understand being able to get in contact with your children if there is an emergency, if something comes up. And that's why we have other processes and procedures in place of how to notify our parents quickly. I am thankful that in Goose Creek we have Parent Square, and so that is able to go out to all families at one time, or we can send it out to just select groups of kids. So we do have certain things in place in the district that I work at. So hopefully they have them in your other districts. And that's enough of that. I don't want to just get bogged down on that. Hey, mama. Don't want to get bogged down on that. But I just wanted to say that, just wanted to share with you all that the safety and the security of your children is what we aim to do. And as I was doing a training today, the training was about trauma-informed classrooms. And so with that training, I'm just going to share a little bit with you all, because I know that it's good information, not just for the teachers to have, but even for parents. And tonight I'm talking about just going back to school, some of the concerns that parents may have, some of the questions that you may have, just back to school in general. Of course, being back to school, and I'm going to get back to the trauma-informed care, but going back to school is always such a great time. As a kid, of course, I loved going to school. I loved being in the classroom. I wanted to learn. I was a good student. I didn't mind going to school. I was ready for the summers to be over so I could go back to school. And Cynthia and I, and probably Carolyn, we would play on the steps in Oak Hill Plaza. We would gather all of the worksheets, ask our teachers for the worksheets at the end of the summer, because guess what? Cynthia was going to teach us during the summer, and we were going to use the steps as our desk. And we were going to have school. We were going to get our lessons. We were going to stay in school even during the summer. And that is a critical thing, because guess what? Sometimes in the summer, hello there, my daughter, Miss Candy Sunshine. Miss Net should be on here, but if not, Net, I need you to join in with me too. But listen, during the summertime, we were going to play school. We were definitely going to play school. We were going to get our lessons. We were going to do everything. We were not going to let that summer lag catch us, where we had forgotten some of the skills that we learned during the school year. And so our teacher, Cynthia, was going to make sure of that. But having said that, we just love being able to get back in school, because guess what? That's where our friends were. Okay, daughter, you're here. So we were ready to get back to our friends that we had not seen during the summer. And then we were ready to get back to some of our favorite teachers. And let me just say this, not all of our teachers were our favorite teachers. We had some teachers that were very selective with the people and the students that they liked, and they showed it. And hello, Sister Barbara. I'm so glad you joined us on tonight. And so some of those teachers, they were okay, but then some of our teachers were not very receptive of students that looked like me, okay? And so their preference were other students that didn't look like me. But can I tell you that some of the teachers that I'm talking about look like me as well? I try to be very careful with the things that I'm saying, even though I know that people are in this present day, they are used to just calling it out. And hello there, Monique. They're calling it out, and they're not trying to spare any feelings, anybody's feelings or whatever. Like they say, it is what it is. But what I can say is that as I became an adult and I went back to work and doing contract work and working a little bit with some of the people, some of the teachers that taught me, as an adult, I found out that they were very cool people. You know, they were not the mean teacher or the uncaring teacher that I had in high school. Now, mind you, I will have to say this, and I believe this with everything that is within me, is that we were judged. We were definitely judged because we grew up in the projects. And I don't know how this message is going back to there. But when I tell you that the basis of who I am is a little girl growing up in the projects, where a lot of the lessons, my life lessons, were learned. And so when I go back to that, it's because it was during those times that a lot of lessons were learned and a lot of my opinions were formed. And so I have to talk about what I know, what I lived. So because we were young people growing up in the projects, some of our teachers didn't really have time for us because we were those children, okay? We were those children who were, you know, the poor kids, or the kids that didn't live near them or in their neighborhoods, or, you know, had but right, some kids were judged simply by where they lived, and that is sad. And I experienced that. My husband experienced that. And I'm quite sure, I know my older brother, one of them did, because I remember a statement that was made to him. And it was like, you know, that you're not going to amount to anything, and everything like that. So, but when we did as adults, when we were productive citizens, when we were in a class where I guess they thought, oh, they have done well for themselves, or they are this, or they are that, because not only did our socioeconomic status changed, but we were looked at very differently as we became adults, because now we were in the same class as them. Okay. So to me, that is mind-boggling, but just the reality of it is that it is what it is, and it did happen. And so it should not be, you're absolutely right, daughter. It should not be that people are judged simply by the places where they live, their upbringing, the lack thereof of the things that they have. Because let me just tell you, even though, and that is one of my favorite sayings that I find that I say all the time, let me just tell you that even though we grew up in the projects in Oak Hill Plaza in Nacogdoches, Texas, those were some of the best years and the formative years in my life. Because one of the things that I will tell you is that I had a mom who made sure that even though we lived in the projects did not live in us. Okay. We knew that that was a stepping stone. We knew that that was just a holding place for us until times got better, until things got better, until she was able to make her move, you all. And so we were always fed. We always had our school supplies. We always had what we needed. Now, I didn't say we had everything that we wanted. And this is going for back to school as well. So for you mamas that are getting your kids ready for back to school, you may not always be able to get them the things that they want. But if you can get them the things that they absolutely need, then you are doing a fantastic job. Because sometimes, let me just tell you, we can spend all of this money for these kids so they can go back to school, so they can have the nice Jordans, they can have the nice this. Now, I'm not a name brand person, so I can't even begin to start telling you what brands they're wearing now, because I am so out of touch with name brand stuff. So out of touch. Hey, Martina, how are you? So I'm not into all of that. And because I wasn't into all of that, I'm just going to tell you, I didn't buy my kids all of that stuff. They did not have it. Even though we had the money to buy it, I just didn't buy that. To me, it was more important that I put back money so we could go on a family vacation. It was more important to me that we put back money so we could do other different things. I'm glad that you're doing good, Tina. Yes. So my mom, going back to what I was saying, my mom made sure that we had what we needed. We didn't go to school looking raggedy. Candy said, did not. Absolutely. We did not go to school looking raggedy. We did not go to school with our heads uncombed. We went to school like like we had it all together. And my mom made sure of that. So for a teacher, and let me just tell you, I was a very, I was a very good student. I was a very smart student. And I would say that probably everybody in my family, it's not like we were poor students. We definitely were not when I'm talking about academics. But sometimes it is based on other people's perception of you, and that's how they treat you, which is very unfortunate. So Mama, I know you did a wonderful job. So thank you, thank you, thank you very much for the upbringing that you gave to us. And I definitely love you and appreciate you for everything. You always made sure that we were taking care of your kids was taken care of. And I can't say that for everybody, but I can only speak for what happened in my household at 405 Oak Hill Plaza. All right. So thank you, Mom. They need to bring back the 2 pair of shoes for $79 or $89. I believe it was Foot Locker. Yes, absolutely, Miracle. They need to bring that back. They need to bring that back. But, better than that, what I do know, because shoes are expensive. And I can remember the very first time that I spent almost $100 for a pair of shoes. And I just thought, absolutely, there is no way that I am spending this much money for a pair of shoes. And it was for my son, for a pair of tennis shoes. And let me just tell you, oh my gosh, I was like, Will, come on, Will. Can't we go to Walmart, or can we go to Foot Locker, or like Miracle said, can we go somewhere and find a pair of shoes for you? But little did I know that that's the cost of shoes. The type of shoes that he wanted, the type of shoes and he was telling me, he was like, Mom, and this is really cheap. Only $100, that's really cheap. And I can say that buying that first pair of shoes, and I think he talked his sisters into buying him the second pair of shoes that he had, the most expensive shoes. But let me just tell you, my son is at a place now where he buys his own shoes. And he has an outstanding shoe collection let me tell you about this shoe collection that my son has. It is one that is, and I'm not going to say too much about it because, yeah, but it's a nice shoe collection. And he keeps it, and I didn't know that this was a thing, but there is a registry that you can register your shoes, and it gives you the value of the shoes, what their current value is in this particular state, and all these different types of things. And so, Will can talk his way into a pair of shoes for sure. Well, baby, yes, because he talked y'all into buying him some shoes that I did not like. I'm not doing that. I have to remind my boys, don't forget, I have to buy for 4 children now. But I thank God for my parents, my in-laws, and Randy. Absolutely, Miracle. Listen, that village is something else, because when you don't have it, your village can step in and make sure that you've got everything that you need. And so having a village is important. Having a village to help you to be, and especially when there's more than one, okay? When I was buying for Will, it was just Will. Now, of course, I have my grandkids that I try to help out, but it was just Will. But in today's society, in today's prices, it is just crazy. It is crazy when you're trying to buy school clothes. And then don't forget the school supplies. Because how many of you all have to have a new backpack? You have to buy those new backpacks every single year. And guess what? The Walmart backpacks that cost $9 or $8 to $10. The kids don't necessarily want them, but let me tell you, some of them are very cute. But I would like them, but the kids don't want those backpacks. They want a good, durable backpack that is a little bit more pricier because, oh, Candace said, Miracle, Michelle Riley, yes. Because if not for my parents, back to school would look totally different. Thank you, Mom and Daddy. Oh, you're so very welcome, Candace. We love doing for our grandkids. As long as we have it, we'll try to make sure that our grandkids are taken care of. And so going back to the village and going back to what I was saying about just being able to buy these school supplies, you all parents, please don't go into debt trying to buy every single thing that's on that school supply list, because I can guarantee you that they do not need it all right now. And it doesn't matter what the teachers are saying, what notes they're sending you. Listen, they don't understand your finances. And if you cannot get it, make sure that they have the basics. They need pencils, they need pens, they need, for the little ones, they need their crayons, they need pencils, of course, everybody needs pencils, and they need the notebooks, the composition books. And you all, let me just tell you, when you see those things on sale for a penny or for a nickel or whatever, not only do you go in there and buy the 10 for $1 or whatever, but then you send your village in there to get 10 for $1. So by the time your village pulls it all together, then you should be okay. But I will say this, right? What will we do without them? Yes, Miracle. But listen, hey, what will we do without our babies and our grandbabies and our kids as well? But going back to what I was saying earlier about trauma-informed classrooms, and see, it all ties in together with what I was saying on today, and I was sharing with the people on today, is that sometimes as children, when they show up to school, you don't really know what those kids had to endure just to get to school. But then the teachers will be upset because they show up at school and they don't have all their supplies, or they're not ready to actually get their day started. Well, they don't understand that they have a younger sibling that maybe they're having to help get ready for school. They may have a parent that's elderly or ill, and they're having to help that parent. They may be living in a household where there's no running water, there's no electricity, there's a lot of different things that could be happening. They may have came to school with no breakfast this morning. They may have not had dinner last night. They may have had to sleep in their car. They may have had to sleep on the couches of a neighbor or a friend. It's so many different things that could be going on in their lives. And guess what? The very thing that they needed to do, or that they were trying to do, was make it to the safe place. Because I ain't got a pencil. That's right, Candace. We read that today. Yes, we read that today to our teachers. And I reminded the teachers that not every student lives in a household or an environment that looks like them. And then I also had to remind them that, guess what? Sometimes, and I may not have shared it with this group, but I've had to share it with other groups, that we've got to remember where we come from. We've got to remember, hey, this is my baby boy that's coming in. My baby boy is a coach at a private school, and he's just getting off from work. So I think he's going to come in and say hi to everybody. This is my baby boy. Isn't he handsome?
I actually had practice.
Oh, you had practice.
Yeah, we got a championship game on Saturday, y'all. So, you know.
So he's a coach at a charter school, but he also coaches I-9 basketball throughout the year. And track. He's also works for the city of Baytown. Listen, one thing I can say about my son is that he has a strong work ethic. I was just telling my husband, I said, this boy was juggling 3 jobs. And they're saying hi. Tina said, hi, Will. Candace said hi. They're all saying hi to you. Miracle said hello. He's giving y'all kisses, everybody. But I'm proud of my son. He's a good young man. But just going back to what I was saying, because the students will show up without things that they need, like a pencil. That's a very if you've not ever read that poem, you need to read it, because it tells the teachers that just because the kids show up without all their supplies, we need to have some grace for them. And again, like I was saying, I remind certain the educators and the people that work in the school district is that for some of us, we haven't always lived the way that we live now. So when you are in a classroom and you're standing before the kiddos and students that may look a little bit different than you look now, don't forget, once upon a time, that was you. Okay. Once upon a time, that may have been you. And I have listened to, I was visiting with this summer one of the counselors, and we were at the food pantry, Hearts and Hands, in Baytown. And as we were talking, and she was telling me, she said, Miss Caldwell, we were looking at the food that they were giving to the people, the homeless people and the people that have food insecurities. And she looked at this big block of cheese, and she said, Miss Caldwell, she said, my family used to get that cheese. And I said, your family? And she said, yes, my family. And I said, oh, wow. And I said, well, mine did too. I said, they made the best grilled cheese sandwiches. And she began to tell me, she said, growing up, she said her family was very poor. And she said that her mom was able to make things stretch, and they did the very best that they could. But since she has become, she went to college, got her degree, and they're living very well now. She doesn't, I always say people that don't look like me, she's just, her skin is a different color than mine. But when you look at, sometimes you look at people and they're so well put together, you're thinking that they've always lived like that. They've always had it. They've always, whatever. But then when they say, that's not my story. My story was very different. And I say, oh, your story was like my story. And so those commonalities, the things that we have. But listen, help the people, teachers, mama. Okay, yes, I am. We never know what it took for a child to make it to school that day or every day. You're exactly right, honey. And so, and when they show up in our classrooms, the kids show up in our classrooms or in the classrooms as parents, we are sending our very best to the school. The very best that we have, the very best that of us, that's who we're sending to school. And we want them to be treated well. We want them to be treated with dignity and respect. So as I was helping those teachers to understand that not only do kids show up with trauma, with childhood trauma, that they have some trauma that they have not worked through as well. So don't allow the things that they haven't worked through, the things that have happened in their childhood, project onto the other kids. I explained to them that they have to show grace, that they have to show love. They have to get to know those children in their classrooms. They have to develop relationships with those children. And when you develop a relationship with a child, baby, you can get that child to do almost any and everything that you ask them to do. It may be the biggest troublemaker in the classroom. And then we got to find out, we don't say, oh, you know, what's going on with you or whatever. We ask, what happened? What happened? Now, we don't ask the student what happened, but we have to look at those children and say, what has happened in this child's life to make them behave the way that they are behaving? And if we can determine and get to the bottom of what is going on with this child, then we'll be able to handle them in a different manner. And they will probably respond to us in a different manner because we took the time to find out what happened. Not only what happened, but how can I help you? How can I best serve you? What can I do to help lighten the load or lighten what's going on in your home. You know, now I'm not saying that we're going to get all involved in whatever. That's the, or the teachers, that's what departments like mine are for. Okay. True. I'm a fourth grade math and science teacher. All right, Monique. Yes. So you get to know those kids, Monique. You learn those kids. You find out, you build a relationship with those kids. And when you build those relationships with the students, Monique, you can probably tell me, I'm calling her Monique. It says Nikki, but we call her Monique. Monique, when you build those relationships with kids, what is the result? How do then they treat you? Ned said, it reminds me of my adopted student. We started out rocky, but he now calls and checks on me. Absolutely, absolutely. That is definitely a story for the books, you know, and that relationship. Sometimes kids just need to know that somebody cares. Somebody cares. It has been said, I think, I can't think of her first name, last name, Pearson. But anyway, she said that a kid needs one adult in their lives that cares for them. Just one trusted adult. And if you can find one trusted adult in the school that is your go-to person, then most of the time those students would do very, very well. They are respectful when there is a relationship. Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that to be true. So when you find those kids find that one trusted adult, typically, you know, that is that adult who will go to bat for them. That is that adult who has developed a relationship with them. They understand, you know, typically what's going on in that student's life, what's going on in that student's home, because that student will open up to them and they will tell them way more than what we really need to know. Even the toughest students will follow instructions when you create a safe environment. Absolutely. Absolutely. And even when those kids, those toughest kids, we've got to know how to deal with them. We've got to know that sometimes they need to be able to have some quiet and some calm time. I asked my teachers, and these were elementary teachers, I asked them, I said, have you created a calm space in your classroom? And some of them was like, okay, so what is a calm space? Well, a calm space is just an area in your classroom where if a student is escalating, their behavior is escalating, or you see that they are about to just kind of, you know, blow up or whatever, then they have a space in the classroom where they can go, where it may be some sensory things, it may be a soft pillow, it can be whatever you design it to be, but it's a place for the kids to stay in their classroom and still hear the instruction, so they're not missing the instruction, and they can go and they can do whatever, you know, some self-soothing type things where they can then get themselves back together, calm themselves back down, and then be able to get back and go to their desk, okay? And so not only do I advocate calm spaces inside of the classroom with the different things in there, but one of the things that I did years and years ago when we had some grant monies that we needed to spend is that we created calm spaces in the schools, in each of the schools. We started out with, I think, 10 campuses where we had like and this is for the adults, okay? Because guess what? The adults need to be calm in order for them to be able to teach the children. So like they said, keep the teachers happy, keep them calm, and then they can go into a classroom and actually teach the kids. So we have, like, in those spaces, we have a massage chair, we have a coffee Keurig, there's snacks, there's like a music machine, there's different things for them to do, manipulatives like the adult coloring books, the lights are dim, there is like a lamp that's in there, it's a side table, there's a telephone in there, and there's also information for our employee assistance program and other resources for them if they're needing those resources. Because guess what? Not only do the students need resources, but our teachers need resources. So we've created a calm space for them just to go in there, and they can only stay in there for about 15 minutes. Turn that massage chair on, turn the music on, dim those lights. And hello there, Sister Sherry. Now, Sister Sherry, I'm talking about the calm spaces. At Sister Sherry's school, they have a wonderful, wonderful calm space. And so, and they use it. They use it. I'm telling them about how the teachers need a place of refuge as well. And so, Sister Sherry, you might want to put in a comment how something about your calm space. But yes, we have calm spaces throughout the district now. Most elementary schools have them. Our secondary campuses have one, and they use it. But guess what? You go in there, you get yourself back together, and then you're able to go back into your classroom, and then you're able to do the things that you need to do. Those are just some of the things that, as you know, as educators, with this back to school, my topic was back to school. She said, yes, they do. Yes, they do. They use it. And y'all, it's so nice. It is so nice. Some of the campuses, theirs look very different than the others. Some have some of the basic things, and some have an extended calm space. And at Sister Sherry School, they have the extended version. It's very nice. So these are just some of the things as we're getting ready to go back to school that we can do. We have calming corners for the students, but not for the teachers. I will bring this up at our next meeting. Monique, if you would get in contact with me, we actually I have a Amazon checklist that has everything in it, that you can get everything for a calm space for about $600. That's including the massage chair. So if you get with me, I can email you my list of everything that you can possibly put in there. Sister Sherry said, it is so nice that teachers and staff have a quiet place that they can go to for a few minutes and relax. It truly makes a difference. I even put snacks in there. Yes, yes. So there are snacks in there. So teachers can go in and they can actually have a snack, a cup of coffee, a quick, bite or something. Because sometimes, remember I said that not all the time our teachers have it together. So we have teachers that are just sometimes is under just as much stress as our students, but they hide it so well. And as an adult, we've learned how to make it through the day. Okay. And sometimes when you can't make it through the day, if you have spaces like a calm space, you could go in there and get yourself together and then go back out. But it's all about relationships. It's all about making sure that we bring the very best of who we are back to school, because our kids are waiting on us. They're waiting on us to do the things that we know that they need us to be there for them. And a lot of times, you all, school is their safe place. It's their place of safety. And kids are ready to get back to school. Sometimes some of our kiddos, they live in like food deserts, and Baytown is considered as a food desert. So if they did not have their meals from school, their breakfast and their lunch from school, sometimes some of these kiddos, when they're going home, there's nothing to eat. Now, that's not for every single student, but for some it is. Sometimes our students are going home to an empty house. There is no adults there. There's no one there to help them with their homework. There's no one there to give them guidance on what their evening should look like. And then sometimes kids go home to a family where, yes, there's family there, but it's chaos. Okay. It's lots of chaos. It could be, a lot of domestic violence. It could be whatever. And let me just tell you, okay, sometimes these kids and the situations that I'm describing, I can tell you that it doesn't matter what the socioeconomics is for any of these, because it's across the board. You have students that live in very affluent neighborhoods, and the exact same things that I'm saying, it's across the board. So don't just think that I'm talking about the kids that are in a different socioeconomics class. No, I'm talking across the board. Sometimes you can have all of the resources, you can have everything, all the money or whatever, but if you don't have post words affirmation in the classroom, you are important. Honey, let me see what you got. Let's see. I'm going to have to push this down. My honey is helping me out. He knows because he's in the classroom as well. Post words, affirmation in the classroom. You are important. You are loved. Keep hope alive. Be strong and be awesome. Thank you, honey. Those are great things that we have to remember as educators and people. But we also have to remember that these are words that we speak over our children. Remember, I said, parents, don't send your kids out to school if you have not spoken those words of affirmation in. Chaos has no boundaries. You're absolutely right, Ned. Don't send those kids out if you haven't prayed over them, if you haven't given them words of affirmation. Bless them. Bless your kids. This is a new school year. We need to be speaking the blessings over our kids. We need to be speaking the blessings over our own selves as we walk out that door. Before we leave in the morning, we need to cover our kids every single day. A new year, new situations, new whatever. We need to be covering our kids. And guess what, parents? If you don't do it, no one else is going to do it. So it's part of your responsibility to cover your kids. Make sure that you're sending them out to be prepared, prepared to go to school to learn, prepared to go to school to listen. Teach them about your family values, your morals, and all of those great things. We want to send our kids out so they go out and they represent us well. They represent Christ well. They just, when you think about your name and you think about, who you are as a family, when your children walk out of your house, you want them to represent you well. And that's one of the things that I think that Boris and I did an excellent job in making sure that our kiddos represented us well. We had a couple of little hiccups in school, but for the most part, my kids were good kids. I don't recall a whole lot of times that I would have to go to the school for any of my children. Now, I did have to go a couple of times, but guess what? We worked those things out at home. Okay. And so we worked them out at home. And when they went back to school, they were a different person. So yes, send your kids to school with affirmations, send them with a covering. Don't forget to bless your kids. And I know I got way off the topic of what I was saying about trauma-informed classrooms, but guess what? I think I covered a little bit about it and making sure that our parents and our teachers understand that, first of all, it's a community effort. It's definitely where you work hand in hand. Ned, why you got that face? Listen, it takes us working together to make sure that everything goes well. One rule in my household is no negativity in the morning, only praise and worship. I love that. I love that. Candace says she definitely popped up on me. Absolutely. Absolutely. When you are able to pop up on your kids at their schools, listen, do it. And don't just you be the only eyes that's on them. Listen, I would tell my girls, wherever you are, I've got a set of eyes on you. And guess what? They will call me. They will tell me what's going on. I thank God for my church family because, listen, they kept their eyes on my girls. Not only my girls, but if you were a product of Davis Memorial, listen, they were everywhere. The saints were everywhere. And they will call and they will tell. And then not only that, if I got to church and if something had happened during the week, I was going to get a report. But I was thankful I was at a place when I was in Nacogdoches that I could just pop up. And listen, sometimes when I popped up, it wasn't what I expected. And guess what? We had to deal with it at home. Yes, we had to deal with it at home. And I think you all understand what I'm talking about. Kids, one of the things that I will tell you is that kids desire structure. They desire, yeah, someone was always watching. Absolutely. Kids desire structure. And this is what I was sharing with them today, is that at school, you're going to have structure. And that's what kids desire. That's what they need. That's what we give to them and provide for them. And it helps them. Okay. I think I've talked way too much on tonight. I think I was trying to make up for not being with you all on last week. So tonight we were just talking about getting back to school, going back to school for 25, 26, with the expectation that it's going to be a great year. And listen, parents, always listen, parents, we need to do our jobs as a parent. And then we need to hold our children accountable. Not only we've got to make sure that we're holding them accountable, because we've got to instruct them in the things that we want and expect from them. And we're going to send the very best that we have to the schools. So then the educators can then do their parts. We don't ever want it to be our children. Take your eyes off my face, Ebony Franklin. Oh my gosh. Absolutely, absolutely. We don't ever want our kids to be the reason why we're having to show up at school and take care of business, okay? When we go to the schools, we're going there for great reasons, to acknowledge the accomplishments that our kids are having, not that they are doing things that they shouldn't be. Yes, Monique, yes, be the standard. You be the standard, absolutely. And so when we do all of these things, then we can know that we're going to have a great 25-26 school year. And we're going to talk more about this probably during the month of August, because, you know, for us, our kids haven't started back to school. They start back on Monday. I'm not sure when Nacogdoches starts back. I think they start back pretty soon. Monique, I'm not sure when your kids start back to school, but let's just say this. When they start back to school, let's send them prepared. Let's send them prepared. Remember, I told you, parents, don't go into debt trying to buy all this stuff, clothes, shoes, supplies, or whatever. And here's the other thing. There are so many organizations that are out there that are providing free backpacks, free school supplies, different things like that. They're not asking you how much money you make. They just want to get rid of those backpacks, okay? So find somebody who's giving away some backpacks and take advantage of the resources that you have in your community. All right, everybody, you all have a great night. And as my sister Cynthia would say, good night, grandstanders. I will see you all on the next time. And let me just say this. My music, I could not find my In the Meantime. So let me see if I can do something really, really quickly. Because I really want you all to hear In the Meantime. But thank you all so very much for listening to me on tonight. And my hope and my desire is that I will be back on next week. And so you tune in on next week. And let's just see what we have to talk about on next week, okay? Everybody have a great night. If I can find the music, I'll play it. If not, you all enjoy the rest of your night and the rest of your week. Bye-bye, everybody.